Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where it seems that China really loves bald dudes with deep voices. But all joking aside, something quite serious happened this weekend in China. Something that isn't just a game changer for Disney and the global box office, but really a game ender, putting them so far ahead of the other studios, it would seem that the other studios cannot compete. Allow me to explain. Just like in the United States, Avengers Infinity War nabbed China's biggest opening weekend of all time. But unlike in the United States, the Chinese government is notorious for favoring local cinema. They give them choice release dates, often creating protective bubbles around the films, where no foreign films are allowed to enter the marketplace to compete. And of course, who could forget that recent infamous incident where movie theaters in China printed out tickets for a state-backed film, which was pretty propaganda-y, let's say, right? And then wrote the number of the theater on top of the ticket where the movie was playing that the moviegoer had actually asked to see. So the question is, why did China, quite frankly, allow Avengers Infinity War to claim their number one opening weekend of all time? Because they're super image conscious over in China, and because it's not a free country, they are able to control their brand, let's say, right? I mean, we're talking about a country where 5 of the top 10 openings are local films or otherwise Fast and Furious movies, right? And the last couple of Marvel films didn't open anywhere close to Avengers Infinity War. Where did all this interest come from? It's like a freaking magic trick. Do you want to know how Disney did it? Curious myself, I did some thinking and some digging, and here's what I came up with. It's brilliant! Okay, so I already knew, we all did, that Disney is heavily invested in China. But I did not know that China, and the information was right there if you look for it, China is heavily invested in Disney. Oh my God, okay? See, both of Disney's China theme parks, Hong Kong Disneyland and the brand new colossal Shanghai Disneyland, local governments have a controlling interest in both theme parks, right? Either outright or through a state-owned company. The Chinese government owns 53% of Hong Kong Disneyland and 57% of Shanghai Disneyland. And of course, both parks feature Marvel attractions and character meet and greets. Hong Kong is getting one of those spiffy new Marvel lands, and when the Avengers Infinity War PR tour hit China, where did they make a stop? Shanghai Disneyland. In fact, this makes Disney the only studio or production company in which not a Chinese company like Wanda Group, but the Chinese government itself is invested. Once again, Bob Iger proves to be worth every penny of that bonus that is coming to him. He is a tactical genius, giving Disney yet another advantage that will make it almost impossible for any studio to compete against them, again, at the global box office. And this China money is going to save this. And well, this movie doesn't need to be saved, but it's gonna slam dunk it. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But slight detour, Universal Studios, or Universal, the only studio that's proven to be able to compete with Disney in the theme park business and at the box office, is trying to gain some ground on the China front, with their first Chinese park set to open in Beijing in 2020. No word yet on the attractions list for the park, but it will likely include a Wizarding World of Harry Potter, plus rumor has it some other studios are trying to get their brands in there as well, because Wizarding World, of course, is Warner Brothers. But back to Disney, this China play not only puts $2 billion back on the table, but makes it likely, because the other movies yet to go, which Avengers Infinity War has to pass, did not do anywhere nearly as well in China. The Force Awakens only pulled in 124, and Jurassic World 228. And keep in mind, by the way, that with Deadpool 2 and Solo coming up, it's very possible that Avengers Infinity War will not be able to match these two movies domestically. In fact, it's a good 5 days behind The Force Awakens in terms of how it's tracking domestically. But that doesn't matter anymore, because even by conservative estimates, Avengers Infinity War now looks to nab $350 in the Middle Kingdom, but possibly even $400 million plus. And it's already at the number 5 slot of all time. And that has the nice headline this weekend of being the most successful superhero movie of all time. That's game, set, match, re-2 billion. The only question that remains, once again, is can it beat The Force Awakens? But now we're talking overall box office. And maybe even it could take on Titanic. That might be a step too far, but I guess we have to stop saying that about Marvel movies these days, right? Wow. Now, as for the weekend's new stateside releases, it would seem that Mother's Day is not a big movie-going holiday, as Hollywood has never been able to get a hit out of it, this year included. Melissa McCarthy, she got hit with her lowest debut ever. Ouch. Although the other movies that she's made with her husband directing were close. So let's hope her entire marriage does not rest on her employing her husband. Although they do have another pick in the works already. Someone has to have an intervention for her, right? And you would think her husband will want to torpedo her career anyway, because, he still benefits from her success. But thankfully, McCarthy is signed on for some real movies coming up as well. And I say real movies because, as I said last week, I think McCarthy is turning into a Tyler Perry, just as Eugenio Derbez has. And that's very charismatic comedians who started out strong, broke new ground in terms of, box office appeal for their demographics, but these days are just phoning it in. Now, speaking of breaking in, that was a low point for mega producer Will Packer as well, as he tries to expand his brand beyond comedies to thrillers. Now, he's taken a stab at it once before with No Good Deed, so the good news here is that Gabrielle Union just made Taraji P. Henson look good, and Taraji P. Henson really needs that right now. Thankfully, Packer has yet another Kevin Hart movie slated to open next for him. Then as for the overall top 10, there were some very nice holds on display. Avengers Infinity War is kind of like running on autopilot to the top of the box office right now. And of course, we're waiting for the other summer blockbusters to enter the marketplace. So there was some space here for movies to lap up some money. And the best holds, in fact, were for sophisticated fare, A Quiet Place and Tully. Although that's the only thing these two movies have in common, because Tully is still a dud. Then as for A Quiet Place, that flick is set to hit China this coming weekend. It'll be interesting to see if it can carve out a space for itself against Avengers Infinity War, especially since it has no incentive for the Chinese government to back it. All right, so stateside, Deadpool 2 is hitting theaters, and tracking is giving it a very large window, anywhere from 130 to 150. But all it has to do is beat the first flick's debut of 132. That was in February. It's moving to the summer. And so there's a lot of things that Deadpool 2 needs to prove weren't a mistake. And that's changing the release date and also the director, right? But Disney, as we've been discussing, is doing everything it can to slow Deadpool 2 down, including an aggressive and early campaign for Solo. Plus, this week, they're kicking off their Incredibles 2 push. They want to slow Deadpool 2 down so it's not too much of an obstacle for Solo, which opens, of course, the week after. Some of you say, Disney's, it's totally fair because Deadpool 2 moved up to a week before Solo instead of a week after. It is fair, but I think we also have to point it out because that's fair too. We'll see what happens. Are you planning to see Deadpool 2 this weekend, or are you saving your money for Solo? It seems even ridiculous to say. The question is, will you see both? And what do you think of Disney's China play? Wow! At this point, do you think that any other studio can compete? I mean, is it too little, too late for Universal? Who knows? It's fascinating. And that's this week's Movie Math. Thanks for going over the box office with me. I look forward to hearing your thoughts down below. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.